When you're talking about the history of Nottingham Forest Football Club, you can easily break it down into three separate, distinct time periods. Pre-1975, post-1993, but in between those two dates, with Brian Clough and Peter Taylor at the helm, this little team from the Midlands was the talk of the town, talk of the country, talk of the world, as they were the best team in Europe, winning back-to-back European championships in 1979 and 1980. Before Brian Clough arrived onto the scene, they were only a two-time FA Cup champion, with their last one coming in 1959. And since Brian Clough's departure, they have won a couple of league titles, but they have fallen off very, very sharply, as they are no longer playing in the top flight, and just a few years ago they were sitting in League One. They are currently sitting in the Championship, falling on hard times, European nights far, far behind them, and just struggling to try and stay in the second tier of English football has put a tremendous strain, not just on the players, the management, but the community of Nottingham as well. They need somebody to come and take them over and get them out of the doldrums, get them back into the top flight, into the first division, and potentially even further. Potentially get themselves another top flight title. Potentially get themselves back into Europe, and hell, potentially get themselves back to the top of European football, another Champions League title. I believe I am the man for that job, and I believe that I could take this fallen giant, grow them up, repopulate that forest, and get them back to the heights of European football. This is Brian Gendo, and this is Reforestation with Nottingham Forest. What's up, peoples? It's Gendo here, and let's shoot for 100 likes in this new series, why don't we? I'm sure you're going to enjoy watching this as much as I am going to be giving it to you and playing this out. Now, for those of you who are new to the channel, the first episode is always dedicated to the club overview, an introduction to the club. So we're going to take a look at their history, we're going to take a look and see what they've won, take a look at their squad and what formation we could potentially use, what the season preview is looking like, and any potential transfer targets that we can go and shoot after to make this squad better, because, oh boy, I've taken a look at the squad and it doesn't look good. But first things first, let's take a look at the club overview of Nottingham Forest, and it says that they've been playing football since 1865, which by my math means they've been playing football for a very, very long time. And another thing that they haven't done in a very, very long time is that they haven't played in a Premier League match since 1999, almost 20 years since they've stepped foot in a Premier League match. I thought it was a lot more recently than that, but that's very, very shocking and very, very surprising. It means that they're missing out on all that Premier League cheddar to get themselves a much better bank balance and obviously attract much better players than what they have right now. It's very disappointing, and it's something that they really need to rectify going forward. That's why you got me. But anyway, they play at the City Ground, which holds 30,576. That's a really, really large stadium, and it's only a stone's throw away, literally, from their neighbors in Notts County, which their stadium is right across the river. And going over the trophies that Nottingham Forest have won, you can't talk about them without talking about the trophies that made Nottingham Forest known, put them on the map, and that is, of course, the back-to-back European Cup titles in 1979 and 1980. They're the second team from England to have done that, back-to-back UEFA Champions League titles, second to Liverpool, who did it earlier that decade. They, of course, have won one First Division title in 1978, which, with that stacked lineup at that point in time, I thought they could have won more. They've won a UEFA Super Cup. They came runners-up in the International Club Champions Cup, which was the precursor to the Club World Cup at that point in time. It was also strictly between European nations and South American nations, getting into a tournament there. They won the FA Cup a couple of times, last in 1959, which really they should be pushing forward to, and if I really want to win a cup, it's going to be that or the League Cup, which, speaking of the League Cup, they haven't won that since 1990. Now, taking a look at the squad overall from Nottingham Forest, and I don't see a lot of deficiencies in any sort of player personnel group. I don't see too many, I should say. From defense to midfield to attack, there's a lot of depth on here, and a lot of decent players too. 3-star current abilities for at least half the players here. And for a championship level, that's fine and dandy. That should immediately get us into a top half positioning. Of course, it all comes down to how well these players stay fit, and of course the formations that we could potentially be utilizing here. And as you can see, Stephen Henderson, Jack Hobbs, Chris Cohn, Jamie Ward, all injured. Need to mitigate those injuries, especially within the first couple of months, so that we can push towards a top half table, maybe even into the promotion area, and stay there. And we cannot talk about Nottingham Forest without having a Clough in the mix, now can we? Zach Clough, coming in from Bolton this past offseason, is statistically the best player on this team. The 22-year-old striker has got some decent attributes for this level. 14 finishing, composure off the ball. His physicals look great, but I'm not too concerned about either his heading or his jumping reach, as he's only 5'7". He's pretty small. But the fun fact also, the only natural English false 9 that I can come up with, if you know of anybody else who could play that position, please let me know in the comments section below. But just being a natural false 9 means that we're going to have ourselves a little bit of an interesting time trying to create a formation revolving around him sitting up top. And we're more than likely going to pair him up with this man and Daryl Murphy. Yes, I know he's 34 years old and his speed and physicality might be declining at a rapid rate after this season, but the dichotomy of having Zach Clough and Daryl Murphy up front is going to be immense, because you'll have Zach Clough, the diminutive man who can strike the ball at will, and Daryl Murphy, a tall guy who's got some great heading attributes, is 16 there, jumping reach of 15, so you can go high and Daryl get it, or you can go low and Zach Clough might get it. So, like I said, two striker front, maybe more than likely what I use, but we'll see what I do going forward. And one of the guys that I look to deliver the ball into the box, especially crossing it in to Daryl Murphy, is Barry Mackay, 22-year-old himself, the young Scotsman. Great technical attributes, 16 dribbling, 14 first touch, and that 14 crossing ability. So, like I said, you can go high and find Daryl, go low and find Zach. I want to try and utilize him as much as possible in the attacking game. And lastly, I'm going to be talking about this guy, not just because that he's American, although, come on, it kind of makes sense, but also, fun fact, he grew up in the Chicagoland area and was trained by the Chicago Fire Academy. So a couple of Chicago boys, I'm sure we'll find something to talk about, probably deep dish pizza and Italian beef and whatnot. We'll figure something out. But Eric Lehigh, and yes, that is how you pronounce that name, Lehigh, does look fairly solid, and he's more than likely going to be my starting right back. 14 pace, 16 acceleration, decent defensive stats at this point in time, decent enough for the championship. Now, taking a look at the tactics, and they give me a default 4-2-3-1, which isn't all that bad, but I'd love to have a two-striker front, given that we have a lot of strikers. In fact, I didn't talk about Apostolos Velios, former Everton man, who is a striker on the squad as well. So we have a bevy of decent strikers, and I want to try and rotate them in as much as possible. So maybe a 4-4-2, get a couple of those strikers in there, and maybe have Barry Mackay pushed up in an advanced winger role instead of back in a flat 4-4-2. I'll figure something out, as we're still in preseason, and I'm going to tinker with the formations and see exactly what we can do. Now, even though I showed you my roster and it looked like a lot of my players were sitting around that 3-star current ability mark, so decent enough for this championship, the media doesn't expect us to do much of anything. They don't expect us to win. They don't expect us to get in the promotion area. They don't even expect us to get in the top half. They have us sitting down here in 18th place. 1,000-to-1 odds to winning the championship. So they don't even factor us into the top half, and I'm going to definitely prove them wrong, because I feel like with this squad, just get a couple of additions here and there just to try and build up the depth, and I think that we could have a team that is going to challenge promotion in its first season, or I should say challenge a promotion playoff spot within its first season. So media, poo-poo that. Don't look at it. We're going to do better than that. Now I'm going to be taking a look at a couple more screens. Firstly, the staff screen, as we do have a couple of coaching vacancies as well as physio vacancies. So I'm going to look to try and bring in some extra coaches. What would I need to bring in to help us out? Just taking a look at the training now. We're full up on goalkeeping coaches. That's a given. We also have a fitness coach, and then outside of that, assistant manager David Weir. So first and foremost, need to bring in 2 proper coaches. And from what I'm seeing here in the training side, more than likely a technical coach and an attacking coach, just to try and balance everything out. So yeah, that doesn't look too terribly bad, but what do we have in terms of money is the problem here. We start off with an overall bank balance of £5.5 million. That's not too terribly bad, but we are starting out in the red as well, losing £185,000 for this month. We do have a transfer budget of $500,000 and an available. Is that an available wage budget? No, it's not. It's just a wage budget of $320,000. We are currently right at that mark. We are currently spending right at that wage budget. So if I do try to bring anybody else in, we are definitely going to have to look for players on the cheap. So we're going to look for loan players. We're going to look for free players that I'm pretty sure we can find some. I've heard through the grapevine that Shay Given is out there. If I need a backup goalkeeper, I can always pick up Shay Given off the free market. And there are a couple loans that I would like to try and pick up as well, like Marco Gruich, and I could see if I can try and pick up Ben Woodburn, but I don't think that's going to happen. So I do have transfer ideas in mind. I obviously need to pick up a few coaches, but we'll worry about that in the next episode. I'll give you the recap of that then. And that's the end of the intro episode, guys. I hope you enjoy it, and I do also hope that you have genuine interest for this series as much as I have genuine excitement for this series going forward, delivering it to you. I do hope and do think that we will actually get a Champions League title with this squad. It's just not going to be instantaneous, but I do think somewhere down the road we are going to win a Champions League title, and I do hope that you will stick around with me as we go on this journey. But anyway, guys, like I said, if you enjoyed it, please do go and drop it a like, share with all your friends, and subscribe if you are new to the channel and you want to watch some more FM18 content. If you want to leave a comment down below on this series and what your thoughts are, what your visions are for this club, please go and do so. I like and appreciate every single comment that you guys put down. But anyway, guys, I've been Gendo and you have been awesome, and I'll see you next time. Take care and peace out.